some older variation of Izzet Prowess. Basically, this is the version that existed circa before MH2, I think. And obviously doesn't have a lot of the newer cards, doesn't have Unholy Heat, doesn't have cards like Slick Shot Show Off, doesn't have DRC and Bobble. The one upgrade I did make to the original main deck list was adding Preordain over Opt. Just because, while it wasn't technically a legal card in Modern at the point in time, because it was banned, it was something that was printed into Modern at that point. So I added this over Opt because, well, it's just a better option overall. The rest of the list is pretty much, I believe it was a Patrick Sullivan or some type of test list from a Star City Games thing around that point in time. At least the main deck. The one main differences between this and current, obviously, is you have Sprite Dragon and Stormwing Entity over cards like either DRC, Slick Shot Show Off, or those kind of things. So you are a little bit slower. And another innovation this version has that the current versions have is no Vapor Snag wasn't really played recently. This is kind of an anti-creature thing. Kind of allows you to get around bigger creatures for a turn, hopefully clear out the space to kind of kill your opponent. And then the rest of the deck, I mean, Soulscar Mage, Monastery Swiftspear, these are kind of still staples in the deck. Bolt and Lava Dart, Preordain, Expressive Iteration, Metamorphose. 4 Mutagenic Growths can protect you from bolts, as well as just be a pump spell out of nowhere, as well as being another free spell for Stormwing Entity. Stormwing Entity is a bit of a weird one. It's a 3/3 for 5. Costs 2 and a blue less if you've casted an instant or sorcery that turn. Enters the battlefield, scry 2. It's a 3/3 flying prowess. And then Sprite Dragon is a 1/1 with haste. Every time you cast a non-creature spell, it gets a +1/+1 counter. So these were two of the staples in the deck back in the day. The sideboard, I did do some adjustments to the list. Main ones being Bedlam Reveler and Rough Tumble over Kozilek's Return and Seasoned Pyromancer that was in the original lists. Rough Tumble just a little bit better in the current meta, and is a card that would have existed then. You know, Pyroclasm, kind of hits our Sprite Dragon potentially. Everything else it outgrows. Rough Tumble doesn't hit our Sprite Dragon, kills most of the things in Boros Energy, which is kind of the main thing you want this for at this point. Bedlam Reveler over Seasoned Pyro, honestly, it's going alright. Sweet Liberties, just kind of getting started, so I haven't even started playing. Did play one match off screen and ended up running into Bug Infect and kind of beat them 2 games to 1, so tested it a little bit just to get feeling for the sequencing with this deck. And then Threads of Disloyalty, probably not a card you should be playing in Modern right now, but as I said, this is a list from mostly circa 2001 or 2021. 2 Cleansing Fires. Honestly, I don't hate this against things like Eldrazi and such, so not a terrible include. 1 of Flame Slash, obviously Unholy Heat didn't exist then, so this was kind of the backup burn spell of choice for slightly bigger creatures. 2 copies of Assault Strobe when you needed to go a little bit faster. Spell Pierce and Dispel were the counter spells being played at that point in this deck. Dispel kind of helps fight over removal spells and counter spells. Spell Pierce obviously nails a bunch of stuff in the format, most notably the One Ring currently. But at that point in time was mainly used just to protect your creatures. So that said, let's get into some matches and see how this 3+-year-old Prowess list does. So this and Mono Red Prowess were kind of the original lift-offs for the Modern format for this deck. Mono Red usually featured Swiftspear, Soulscar Mage, sometimes Kiln Fiend, and sometimes Bedlam Reveler. Yeah, we'll keep this one. Doesn't have a 1-drop, but we do have a Sprite Dragon. Do have a couple ways to keep the party going here. Hopefully our opponent will play something we can bolt, and then we go from there. Manamo. So, mill perhaps? Yeah, not beating Spell Snare. Could be Blue Eye Control. Could be Blue Black Frog. No, it looks like we might just literally be up against either Blue Eye Control or one of the it's tanking. I don't know they want to counterspell this. I don't think I really want either one of these lands. We're going to bottom both. So last week we ran into like just hardcore Esper control. So I wonder what kind of weird stuff we'll run into this week. See if we finally get an answer of what our opponent's up to here. Okay. Has to kill the cat. Game history. Last week would have been 20th. Dr. Exo. No, so we're not playing against the same opponent. These 40 mutagenics are easily going to come out here. EI, let's go. Not much. How you doing, Sustenance? It's interesting that they chose to force pitch when they had the open mana. Yep, nothing we can do about that. No, we're just up against Jeskai energy. Alright. Yup. Okay, put against some life. I should say it doesn't gain some life. None of these cards actually do us any good this turn, because I can't really play Bolt here. So dupe, 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 and cast nothing. No. This is an older version of the deck, number 1 from 2021, just to mess around with it. And number 2, Lynx is not really a modern power level card for aggressive decks. Yup. opponent has an actual counter spell here, I don't think we have a prayer. And if they find Solitude, there's nothing we can do here. It goes to 1 and then dies to their own ring trigger. Don't think there's anything here in instant speed that they could pick up and win with. Alright, so just got control. Just got energy, whatever you want to call it these days. High noon, additional removal. I think the cards we want in are these and these. Wildfire is kind of middling. Not really a combo matchup. Vapor Snag is okay. It kind of protects our creatures at the cost of 1 life and also can set them back on a Flage. I think it literally might be Lava Dart and Bolt as the cards that just kind of come out. Because Mutagenic can help us protect from... Do they even play Bolt or... They play... No, they don't even play Bolts, so... At least not in general. They play Prismatic Ending, Leyline Binding, and Flage, as well as Sweepers. So maybe I leave the Bolt effects in, or some amount of the Bolt effects in, and go down the Mutagenics. Alright, the scene's okay. We have, at least on the draw, we have 1 creature, we have a Preordains. The odds of us finding a second land are pretty decent. Dispel isn't the best of cards in this matchup, but... In fact, Dispel is actually quite terrible. Possible I shouldn't even have brought those in. Alright, start with Steam Vents. Swift Spear. I did mess around with the idea of making this a null, just because there are so many, the One Rings, Leyline Bindings, the 1 mana 1 from Static. Is it Static Prison from Energy? Alright, kind of need this to resolve, but does our opponent sense that? I mean, I'm going to top both, but the reality is we're fetching it away, so. But if we don't have to, having access to Spell Pierce would be, second Spell Pierce would be pretty decent. Opponent is notably missing blue at the moment. Okay, never mind. Sure. As much as I would love to draw a second Spell Pierce, I really want to draw a third land at the moment. Good chance this is running into a Spell Snare, but guess we should have gone for, well, EI would have gotten Spell Snare too, so. In the One Ring, land the One Ring. Oh, no, Cast Flight, sure. Another copy of Spell Snare. Land, please. Yeah. Alright, so that to hand, that to that, that to that. Play that and pass. That way we can hold up Spell Pierce for the One Ring should they happen to draw it. Well, it does nothing, does nothing, does nothing. Sure. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, we have no way to deal with this. How much does that cost currently for blue? Just gonna die to this lovely flage. Why would they not? Have done that main phase? Uh-huh. Nothing we can do here, because even if we flash back the lava dart, it wouldn't be big enough. Paper Snag's really the only card that could kind of bail us out here. Yeah, what's a fuss? Pass. Shouldn't have auto-passed, but it is what it is. Our Spell Pierce could have caught that leyline binding. this for 3. Considering we know their other card in hand is Flage. I think it's the card currently in Modern most likely to be banned. I think it makes repetitive gameplay and kind of fits into every mid-range strategy in the format, so maybe. I assume my opponent's going to Flage and then Hasty Flage. Yep. Think you need to realize. Don't think our opponent is the best version of the control player. Granted, we F6 through a ley line binding, though I don't think it would have ultimately mattered much because our opponent did have Alright, well, let's go for it. Connect 4. Okay, sure. Now we just basically have to deal with removal spells. Sure. Unfortunately, unless our opponent goes stupid, we can't beat the One Ring. So, and Flage, if they do it right this time. Hey, hey, they're doing it main phase this time. Woo! Main phase 1 this time. So they figured it out. Alright. Is there any reason to bring in Cleansing Wildfire for Arena of Glory? I don't think so. It's like the only utility land of theirs we kind of care about. And we're not going to color screw in any which way, so... Counter spells in Bedlam Reveler are a little... but, you know, the alternative in the original list was Seasoned Pyromancer, and when you're getting down to a couple spells in your hand, it would kind of be the same problem. So, we'll try this. Left card on top, that's somewhat terrifying, but Sprite Dragon. I suppose it might help speed up the clock, but the fact that our opponent's playing Solitude, Prismatic Ending, and Leyline Binding does make... Oh, we're about to get Pyroclasm, aren't we? No, Prismatic Ending. Okay. Well... Glad we did what we did, I guess. Wouldn't want to draw those 3 lands, that's for sure. Trigger. Should have played another land in case our opponent thought about force of negationing this, but well, that's certainly a hand. I think there's going to be a Leyline Binding coming down here, most likely. Just the way they've been acting the entire time. Keeping Bold up to play around Pyroclasm, mainly. Well, the problem is... Dispel is such a terrible counterspell in this matchup. I love the One Ring. I love the One Ring. Such a BS card. That to hand. Don't really like tapping out here, but we do have to get the Stormwing entity down, so. Their mana base, though, is so bad for a 3-color deck. Sure. I'm trying to find a copy of... I already know what's on top, so I don't even know why I'm doing this. We literally have Preordain on top. What's up, O'Doyle? Okay. I think between overpowered cards like the One Ring and unfortunately cards like there's too many universes beyond sets. There's too many just random nonsense. I think the theory behind Modern Masters was fine if it didn't completely invalidate the format that existed. Like cards like the One Ring and Flage and some other things just like completely invalidate some of what makes Magic good. Opponent has decided, you know what? Sure, we'll let that resolve. I'm only going to attack with Stormwing Entity because one of the wings they get out of this is attempting to cast Solitude and blocking here. And yeah, I'll go ahead and let that happen. And then just bolt my opponent. The 2021 deck, after, what, 45 minutes, beats the Jeskai control deck with the One Ring and 10,000 Modern Horizons cards. But yeah, I agree, Foz and Doyle. I just think that there's just too much product to keep up out there with. I think so. Like if Wizards went to a situation where they want like you keep your three usual sets. You have the one core set, and then maybe once or twice a year you release like some type of small like Universes Beyond, or you know, Lord of the Rings or Doctor Who, or you know, one of those kind of sets. I don't think that that's a terrible like kind of cadence to do. Like say you release your sets every 3 months, and then maybe around Christmas time you release like some other big set, and then around say the middle of summer you release another like smaller set. I think that would be a reasonable cadence. You could get like two different branches of Commander product out while also having a set of weak flaws. Come on now. But I think that would give you enough like spacing between your sets that you almost have no downtime, but at the same time gives you an opportunity to have a big set somewhere in the middle of things. Um, all right. We'll keep one of them. Amped Raptor into an Amped Raptor, sure. It's not great bouncing one of these back to their hand, but at the same time, it forces them to at least chump block here, and they go to 2. They hit discharge? Yeah. So I'm presuming they have another answer for Stormwing. Yep, Static Prison, sure. Not sure why they left a ramp an amped Raptor back whenever they had Johnny kind of rolled up here. Silkscar Mage being the general menace that it is in the post-board game, or after turn 1. Sure. I think we'll just accept this hit for now. G to hand, sure. Alright, so currently 2 bolts, 4 lava darts, and 3 Fae are lethal. 3 Fae. Sprite Dragon, I mean. So, and several redraws at them. What does Vapor Snag do here? Honestly, not much. Puts our opponent to 1. Yeah, I suppose it's a possibility. Doesn't seem likely, especially since they've already seen Vapor Snag. Good call, Foz. Good call. Wait till they go to combat first. Guess if there's a matchup we're interested in Threads of Disloyalty, it would probably be this one. I wonder if my opponent's still in Shell Shock over there. Problem is I don't know what we'd cut for all these cards. Maybe a couple of Stormwings. Actually even want Threads of Disloyalty. Like, what card are we stealing from our deck that is... If this were 3 or greater and we could steal a Flage, I just don't think it's worth it. Like, Guide of Souls, maybe? We don't even keep in Johnny if it flips. Oh, I think I probably had won with some Vapor Snags over the years too, but man, it's been a minute since that card's been relevant to me. This card's okay, or this hand's okay, but we have like no interaction. I think since our opponent's mulliganing, we'll keep it, but and I had to wait until, because I could either do it before the Gigantha resolved, or I had to wait until combat, simply because the Jiggy could tap for mana and, you know, kill whatever targeted Vapor Snag we had. So that was the main reason I just kind of let her. I should have probably brought in possibly Spell Pierces to fight over the One Ring, but that could be a little narrow against them. Aether Hub, Amped Raptor, oh, a Johnny. I mean, it's really hard, like, so one of the weird things about playing a list like this is it's really hard as a Magic player if you're, like, locked in on the most recent version of Magic and you don't have, like, an understanding of, like, the history of decks and how they've evolved over time. What's up, Ken? Actually, circa 2021. But, you know. But it's got a Goddess Souls. Well, that's just it. Is like so many, because MH3 has done, MH3 and MH2 has done so much to the formats. Like, if you'd go back on the channel, the main Nexus channel, and look at the decks that I'm playing against, X number of years ago, you just see, like, you know, a bunch of nonsense, honestly. Okay, well, I mean, that's a pretty reasonable way to spend a turn. Okay. I'm gonna say here comes Amped Raptor, so we'll go up to 4 energy. So Govanik can go to 6. I think we force them to bleed it all if they want to kill it. I know this doesn't prevent it from dying, but it does force them to literally bleed every single bit of energy they have, so they can't pump their team with Guide. what am I popping here is the question. I feel like it's got to be Goddess Souls. 2 red, red. You know, if our opponent ever pulls the One Ring or Flage out, I don't think we're winning this game, but Gigantha to hand. Vapor Snage, huh? I think we just leave Sprite Dragon back. To be fair, back in its day, Siege Rhino was a menace for any deck I played. So, yeah. Static Prison. Yeah, unfortunately, we gotta let that go. And we're just dead here? Question mark? Because I can't do this to Vapor Snag and then... Yep. Should have held up the Vapor Snag instead of playing out our thing. Yeah, we'll try it again. We'll try it. This hand is certainly a risk because of the one land. Yep, put it with the more permanent based removal rather than Raptor. Nope, Johnny, sure. Alright, let's give them the opportunity to block with their thing. Amped Raptor into what? Another Johnny. That was dumb. That may very well cost us this game. No blocks. These are the kind of interactions that are just basically impossible to deal with. Take up, kill this, and then basically kill us. Nope, we're just dead. Okay. I mean, could try another match, but that with the first matchup taking 45 minutes and this one taking, you know, almost 20, 25. You know, granted, we have a 2-match sample size. We have Just Got Control, who wasn't played by the tightest of control players, and Boros Energy, kind of a close matchup, but also kind of not. Hard to evaluate, obviously, off of 2 matches, but I do think, you know, there is some consideration for Stormwing entities simply because the Scry 2 off of it, the fact that it's a 3/3 in Scry 2, you know, with Metamorphose and Mutagenic Growth, I do think there might be something to, like, revisiting these style of piles. Cards that impressed me, or at least I think should see a little bit more exploration. Vapor Snag came up a couple of times, just being, you know, kind of a clutch deal with things. You could easily have something like the Flood Maw, but just the utility of killing your opponent, bouncing their creature. You know, this was a unique card that added a nice angle of attack. I continue to be unimpressed by Soulscar Mage. I mean, it's like the weakest one drop in the deck, and I do wonder if DRC Bobble just isn't better. And then Sprite Dragon, I think, would need a little bit more testing to see. Like, obviously, it isn't Slick Shot. And Slick Shot is, very good at killing the opponent dead really quickly. Spray Dragon has the advantage of, over a couple of turns, it can grow quite large on its own without having to be pumped spell after spell after spell. Now, obviously, it's vulnerable to things like Lava Dart, Renin 6, Orcish Bowmasters initially, and then once you play a spell, it's kind of fine. And obviously, it triggers off of Mishra's Bauble, Lava Dart, Manamorphose, all the different things. So part of me wonders if it isn't like a DRC, Swift Spear, Sprite Dragon, Stormwing entity, and then testing whether Sprite Dragon or Slick Shot is the better card from a playing against removal standpoint. And then, like, Stormwing entity isn't good by any stretch, but with Arena of Glory working its way into the mix, it could theoretically be possible to have a 3/3 hasty, like, say, Manamorphose, like turn 3 Manamorphose into filter into Arena of Glory, Stormwing entity haste. Gets a little bit more interesting. The sideboard, some of it was just going to be trash. Like, Threads of Disloyalty, I knew copying from an earlier list was just not going to be good unless we played something like, against something like Nethergoyf or Tarmogoyf. It just is not, it doesn't hold up in Magic anymore. At least not in Modern the way it currently is. Rough Tumble, I mean, if we would have drawn it against Energy, probably wouldn't pretty good. Bedlam Reveler was okay in some spots. This card was always kind of a crapshoot. It and Seasoned Pyromancer did bounce back and forth for a reason. Because this one could be incredibly hard to cast, whereas Seasoned Pyro could at least, if you were Hellbent, you got to draw 2 new cards. Or you could exchange, some trash cards for some better cards. They both have the drawback of pitching your hand to draw more cards, which isn't terrible. Although, Bedlam Reveler, if you top deck it or can Hellbent yourself, draws you 3, Season draws you 2. Not sure how relevant the 4 toughness is in this day and age, but that would certainly be something that would need tested further. Wildfire, well, it didn't come up in either of the matchups we played here, did come up in the matchup that I tested before this, which was against Bug Infect, being able to clear out Inkmoth Nexus. And there are just some lands you need to blow up, so I'm not opposed to this. Assault Strobe, when you need to get faster, makes perfect sense. Flame Slash could obviously become Unholy Heat or something else if you just need slightly better removal spells in today's format. Spell Pierce, still a solid card in today's day and age. Dispel, there just isn't enough instants to fight over right now. Like, against our control opponent, it could have come up against, like, countering their Force of Negation or something. But I honestly think it's better as, like, a Consigned Memory or a Null or, while narrow things, something that hits something else. So, or just Spell Pierces 3 and 4. I don't know. But, yeah, this deck certainly had some interesting legs to it, despite being 3+ years old. So, who knows? Maybe there's something here. Anyways, I thank everybody for hanging out tonight. Foz, Kenneth, O'Doyle, let's see who else. Sustenance and Sweet Liberties. I want to thank everybody for hanging out tonight. Did something a little bit off the wall, but sometimes it's nice freshen things up a little bit. So, anyways, I hope to see you guys for next week's stream. This has been John for MTG Nexus, both here on Twitch and YouTube.